The letter was addressed to me, written in my father's handwriting, hidden inside his Bible for 23 years. I found it 3 months after we buried him. 3 months after I stood at his grave and said goodbye to the man I thought I knew, the man I thought was my hero. My hand shook as I unfolded the yellowed paper. The date at the top made my blood run cold. It was written the day I was born, the day my mother died giving birth to me. And the first line destroyed everything. My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, then you know the truth I've kept from you your entire life. I stopped breathing. The room started spinning. What truth? What had he hidden from me? I kept reading, and with every word, every sentence, every devastating revelation, my entire life crumbled. Everything I believed about my father, my mother, my family, my very existence, it was all a lie. The man I grieved for wasn't who I thought he was. The story I'd been told about my mother's death wasn't real. And the person I believed I was, that person never existed. Let me tell you how one hidden letter destroyed a lifetime of lies and forced me to face a truth so painful, I wished I'd never found it at all.
My father, David, was my entire world. He raised me alone after my mother died in childbirth, just the two of us against the world. That's what he always said. Growing up without a mother was hard. I'd see other kids with their moms at school events and feel this ache in my chest, this hollow space where a mother should have been. But Dad tried to be both parents. He learned to braid my hair, even though it always came out crooked. He attended every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every moment that mattered. He never missed a single one.
Your mother would be so proud of you, he'd say, his eyes getting that faraway look. She wanted you so badly. She loved you before she ever met you. I grew up with stories of my mother, Rebecca. How beautiful she was, how kind, how excited she was to become a mother. The story of her death was always the same. Complications during childbirth. She held me once before she died and whispered, "I love you, Emma. Be brave." Those were her last words, and I carried them with me my entire life like a sacred gift. Dad never remarried. "How could I?" he'd say. "Your mother was the love of my life. There's no replacing that kind of love." I thought it was romantic, tragic, but beautiful. We lived a quiet life in a small Pennsylvania town. Dad worked as an accountant. We had Sunday dinners at the same diner every week. We had traditions and routines, and a life that felt safe and good. Dad was deeply religious, church every Sunday. His worn leather Bible was his most treasured possession, filled with handwritten notes, passages underlined, pages soft from years of turning. "This book has all the answers," he'd tell me. "Whenever you're lost, you open this book and you'll find your way." I tried to share his faith, but never felt that connection he had. Still, I respected him. He was the best man I knew. Honest, kind, devoted. Everyone in town loved him. Everyone spoke about what a wonderful father he was. What a tragic figure, raising a daughter alone after losing the love of his life. I was proud to be his daughter. When I turned 18, I went to college 2 hours away. We stayed close. I called every day, visited every weekend I could. I graduated, got a job, got my own apartment, started dating someone Dad approved of. Dad was 62 when the heart attack took him. No warning, no goodbye. I got the call at work and drove to the hospital faster than I've ever driven, but he was already gone. The funeral was packed. "He's with Rebecca now," they said. They're finally together again. I found comfort in that my parents were reunited. I inherited everything, moved back home to sort through his belongings. That's when I found the letter, 3 months after his death, hidden in his Bible.
I wasn't looking for it. I was cleaning out his bedroom, boxing up clothes for a donation, packing books for storage. His Bible was on the nightstand, where it always was, reading glasses folded on top of it. I picked it up, intending to keep it, a piece of him I'd never let go. As I lifted it, something slipped out from between the pages, an envelope, old, yellowed with age, sealed, but never mailed. No address. Just one word written on the front in my father's handwriting, Emma. My heart started beating faster. An envelope with my name on it, hidden in his Bible. Why had he never given it to me? What was inside? I sat down on his bed and carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. Several pages, handwritten, the paper thin and delicate like it might crumble in my hands. The date at the top stopped my heart. The day I was born, September 14th, 23 years ago. My hands began to shake as I read the first line. My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, then you know the truth I've kept from you your entire life. What truth? What was he talking about? I kept reading, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I need you to understand that everything I did because I loved you. I loved you from the moment I saw you. But Emma, I'm not your biological father. The words didn't make sense. I read them again and again. Not my biological father. That was impossible. He raised me. He was my father. Of course he was my father. I forced myself to keep reading.
Your mother, Rebecca, was pregnant when she died, but not with my child. She'd been having an affair for months before she died, with my best friend, Michael, the man I trusted more than anyone in the world. No, this wasn't real. This couldn't be real. My mother wouldn't do that. My perfect angelic mother who died bringing me into the world. She wouldn't betray him like that. But the letter continued, and it got worse. I found out 3 weeks before you were born. I found them together, in our bed, in our home. The betrayal nearly killed me. I confronted them. Rebecca broke down, confessed everything, said she loved him, said she was planning to leave me once you were born, said she wanted to be with him, to raise you as his daughter. Tears were streaming down my face now. The room was spinning. This couldn't be true. None of this could be true. Michael wanted her to have an abortion. Did you know that? He didn't want you. He wanted Rebecca to end the pregnancy so they could start fresh together without complications. But Rebecca refused. She wanted you, even if it meant losing Michael, even if it meant destroying our marriage. I couldn't breathe. My mother almost didn't have me. My biological father didn't want me. Nothing made sense anymore. I was going to leave her, pack my bags, and never look back. Let her raise you with Michael or without him. I didn't care. I was done. But then the complications happened. The bleeding, the emergency, and she died on that table, holding my hand, begging me to take care of you. The story I'd been told my whole life, my mother holding me, whispering that she loved me, telling me to be brave, it never happened. She never held me. She died asking my father to save me. She begged me to raise you as my own, to never tell you the truth, to let you believe you were mine, that we were a family, that she died loving both of us. And in that moment, looking at her dying, looking at you, this tiny, innocent baby who had nothing to do with any of this. I couldn't say no. My father, the man I called Dad my entire life, wasn't my father. He was a man who chose to raise another man's child out of guilt and obligation, and maybe, just maybe, mercy.
So I took you home. I signed the birth certificate as your father. I never told anyone the truth. Not Michael, not my family, not the town. I let everyone believe the story Rebecca wanted them to believe. That we were a happy couple. That you were our planned child. That she died a tragic death bringing our daughter into the world. 23 years. 23 years of living a lie. Michael never knew you were his. He moved away 6 months after Rebecca died, got married, had his own children, built a life completely separate from ours, and I let him because you were mine now, not by blood, but by choice. I chose you, Emma. Every single day I chose you. But he never told me. He let me grow up believing a fairy tale, believing my mother was perfect, believing I was born from love, believing I belonged to him.
I wrote this letter the day you were born because I thought someday I'd have the courage to tell you the truth, to sit you down and explain everything. But the years passed and I couldn't do it. I couldn't bear to see the way you'd look at me when you found out. Couldn't bear to shatter the image you had of your mother. Couldn't bear to admit that our entire relationship was built on a lie. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely hold the pages. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And you found this letter in the only place I knew you'd eventually look. My Bible. The book I told you held all the answers. I suppose this is the answer you needed most, the truth I was too cowardly to tell you while I was alive.
There was more, pages more. He wrote about raising me, about watching me grow, about every birthday, every milestone, every moment where he almost told me, but couldn't. About how he grew to love me as his own, about how I stopped being Rebecca's daughter or Michael's daughter and became simply his daughter. You are my daughter, Emma, not by blood, but by every moment we shared, by every late night I stayed up when you were sick, by every tear I wiped away, by every laugh we shared, by every sacrifice I made. You are mine. And I hope, wherever I am now, you can forgive me for keeping this from you. The letter ended with one final line. Your mother's affair partner, your biological father, is Michael Richardson. He lives in Seattle now. If you want to find him, if you want to know where you came from, that choice is yours. But know this, you came from me too. From 23 years of love and devotion and choosing you every single day. That's as real as blood, maybe more real. I sat on that bed holding that letter and I felt like I was dying. Everything I knew, everything I believed, everything I was, it was all fiction. A story my father told me to protect me from a truth too ugly to face. My mother wasn't the angel I thought she was. She was a woman who had an affair, who fell in love with someone else, who was planning to leave her husband.
My father wasn't my biological father. He was a man who raised me out of obligation, who pretended to be something he wasn't, who lied to me every single day of my life. And me? Who was I? The unwanted child of an affair, the daughter of a man who wanted my mother to abort me, the reason my father's life was ruined. I didn't know who I was anymore. And the man who could have explained it all, who could have helped me understand, he was gone.
and he'd taken his explanations to the grave, leaving only this letter behind.
For weeks, I couldn't function. I called in sick to work, stopped answering calls. I sat in that house, surrounded by memories that suddenly felt like lies. I read the letter obsessively, analyzed every word, tried to make it make sense, but there was no hidden meaning. Just brutal, ugly, devastating truth. My father lied to me for 23 years. My mother wasn't the angel I'd worshipped. And Michael Richardson, my biological father, didn't want me. I searched for him online, found him easily. Facebook page full of photos, his wife, his children, my half-siblings, his life in Seattle. He looked happy, content, like he'd moved on and never looked back. Did he know? Did he ever wonder about the woman who died, the child she left behind? Or had he forgotten completely? Was I just a footnote in his life? A problem that solved itself when Rebecca died? I stared at his photos for hours, looking for pieces of myself in his face. And I found them. The shape of my nose, the color of my eyes, the way his smile tilted slightly to the left, just like mine did. I looked like him, more than I'd ever looked like David. How had no one ever questioned it? But then I remembered. Small town. Everyone believed the story. And David had been so devoted, so completely my father in every way that mattered. Why would anyone doubt it?
I wrote Michael an email, deleted it, wrote another, deleted that too. What would I even say? Hi, you don't know me, but you had an affair with Rebecca 23 years ago, and I'm the child you didn't want? The thought made me sick, but so did never knowing. I called my father's best friend, George. He'd known David for 40 years. George, I said when he answered, did you know? Long pause. Know what, sweetheart? About my mother, the affair. About David not being my biological father. Another pause. Then quietly. Yes, I knew. The confirmation punched through me. And you never told me?
It wasn't my truth to tell, George said gently. David asked me never to speak of it. He said it would only hurt you. It changes everything, I shouted. Does it? George asked. David raised you. David loved you. David sacrificed everything for you. How is Gad a lie? Because I'm not his daughter. You were his daughter in every way that mattered, George said firmly. Blood doesn't make a father, Emma. Love does. And David loved you more than anything in this world. I started crying. George waited. He chose you, George continued softly. Every single day he chose you. When he could have walked away, when he could have told everyone the truth, he chose to be your father. That's not a lie. That's the most truthful thing I've ever witnessed. But he never told me, I whispered. He let you believe you were loved, George corrected. He let you believe you were wanted. He let you believe you came from something beautiful instead of something broken. Maybe that was wrong, but he did it because he loved you. I deserved to know, I said. Yes, George agreed. You did. And David knew that. That's why he wrote the letter. He knew eventually you'd find it, but he wanted you to have 23 years of innocence first. I didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to feel. Michael doesn't know, does he? I finally asked. No, George said. David never told him. Never gave him the chance to reject you a second time. He wanted you to have a choice, to reach out if you wanted, or to let it go. But he never wanted Michael to have power over your life.
That night, I pulled out photo albums, pictures of me and David throughout the years, birthday parties, holidays, school events, just ordinary moments of a father and daughter living life together. In every photo, he was smiling, looking at me with so much love it practically radiated from the page. And I realized something that hadn't fully sunk in before. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't faking it. That love was real as anything I'd ever known.
Yes, he'd lied about biology, about DNA, about the circumstances of my birth, but he'd never lied about loving me. That was the one truth that ran through everything else. It took me 2 months to finally send the email to Michael. I kept it simple, direct, no drama, no accusations. My name is Emma. I'm the daughter of Rebecca, who died 23 years ago. I recently discovered that you may be my biological father. If you're willing, I'd like to talk. He responded 3 days later.
I'm sorry, but I think you have the wrong person. I knew Rebecca, but we were just friends. I'm not your father. I'm sorry for your loss. Just friends. He was denying it. Either he truly didn't know, or he knew and was choosing to pretend he didn't. I could have pushed, could have sent him proof, could have demanded a paternity test, but I didn't. Because George was right. Blood doesn't make a father. And Michael Richardson, whatever his DNA said, wasn't my father. He never had been.
David was my father, the man who chose me when he didn't have to, the man who raised me alone, the man who sacrificed his own truth to give me a better one. I went back to David's grave for the first time since finding the letter. I sat in the grass beside his headstone and I talked to him. I'm angry at you, I said out loud, for lying, for not trusting me with the truth, for making me find out this way instead of hearing it from you. The wind rustled through the trees. Birds sang in the distance. But I also understand, I continued, my voice breaking. You were trying to protect me. You were trying to give me something you never had, a childhood free from pain and betrayal and complicated truth. Tears streamed down my face. You were my father. You are my father. Nothing in that letter changes that. You chose me, and I choose you too. I choose to remember the man who raised me, not the circumstances of my birth. I choose to honor the sacrifice you made. I choose to believe that love is stronger than biology. I stayed there for hours, talking, crying, processing. Eventually, I made peace with it. Not completely, maybe never completely, but enough to move forward. I kept the letter, kept it in the Bible, right where he'd left it, because it was part of my story now, part of who I was. I also kept every memory of David, every lesson he taught me, every moment of love he showed me, because those were real. Those were mine, and no revelation could take them away. I never contacted Michael again. He made his choice, and I made mine. He could live his life in Seattle with his family, never knowing the truth. And I could live my life honoring the man who actually raised me. But I did reach out to David's side of the family, my aunt, my cousins, people I'd grown up calling family. I told them the truth. I gave them the choice to walk away if they wanted, now that they knew we weren't blood. Not one of them walked away. Your family, my aunt said firmly, blood or no blood. David chose you, and so do we. That meant more to me than any DNA test ever could. I also started going to therapy. because processing this kind of revelation isn't something you can do alone. I needed help understanding my feelings, my anger, my grief, my confusion. My therapist helped me see that I was allowed to feel multiple things at once. I could be angry at David for lying and grateful for his love. I could be hurt by Rebecca's choices and sympathetic to her humanity. I could be curious about Michael and completely uninterested in pursuing him. All of it could be true at the same time. Slowly, over months, I started to heal, started to rebuild my sense of self. Not the Emma I thought I was, but the Emma I actually was. A woman raised by a man who loved her enough to sacrifice his own truth for hers. 1 year after finding the letter, I met someone. The kind, gentle man who knew my whole story, the truth, the lies, all of it, and loved me anyway. Family isn't about where you come from, he told me on our 3rd date. It's about who shows up for you. And your dad showed up every single day of your life. He was right. David showed up. In big ways, in small ways, in ordinary moments and extraordinary ones. He showed up when it was easy and when it was hard and when it cost him everything. That's what a father does. That's what love does.
The letter shattered everything I believed about my mother, about my father, about myself, about where I came from and who I was. But here's what it didn't shatter: the truth of David's love, the reality of 23 years of sacrifice, the choice he made every single day to be my father. I spent so long being angry at him for the lie, for keeping this from me, for not trusting me with the truth. And maybe that anger was justified. Maybe he should have told me. But I also understand now what I couldn't understand at first. He was protecting me, not from the truth itself, but from the pain that comes with it, from the knowledge that my existence came from betrayal, from the reality that my biological father didn't want me, from the complexity of my mother's humanity. He gave me 23 years of believing I was born from love. And maybe, in a way, I was. Not romantic love, but something deeper. The love of a man who chose to raise a child who wasn't his, who chose to forgive, who chose to see past biology and betrayal and pain to the innocent life that needed him. That's a kind of love most people never experience. A love that costs everything. A love that sacrifices truth for mercy. A love that says, you are mine, not because you have to be, but because I choose you. I will never know what my life would have been like if Rebecca had lived, if she'd left David and raised me with Michael, if I'd grown up knowing my biological father, knowing the truth from the beginning. Maybe it would have been better. Maybe it would have been worse. I'll never know. What I do know is this. David gave me a childhood, a real childhood, with love and security and the belief that I was wanted. He gave me a father who showed up. He gave me a life free from the complicated pain of my origins. Was it built on a lie? Yes, but it was also built on the most profound truth I've ever known. That family is a choice, that love is a verb, that being a parent has nothing to do with biology and everything to do with showing up. I keep the letter in his Bible. I read it sometimes when I need to remember, when I start to feel angry again or confused or lost. And every time I read it, I come back to the same conclusion. My father loved me, not despite the truth, but because of it. He saw me, this baby born of betrayal and pain and loss, and he chose me anyway.
He chose to see past where I came from to who I could become. That's grace. That's mercy. That's love in its purest form. I will always wish he'd told me while he was alive. I will always wish I'd had the chance to tell him I understood, that I forgave him, that I loved him regardless. I will always carry some anger at being robbed of that conversation. But I also carry gratitude. Gratitude for 23 years of being his daughter. Gratitude for a man who sacrificed his own truth to give me peace. Gratitude for love that transcends biology and chooses family over blood.
The letter shattered everything I believed. But in the broken pieces, I found something more true than the fairy tale I'd been living. I found proof that I was chosen, wanted, loved so deeply that someone sacrificed their entire truth to protect mine. And maybe that's the greatest gift a parent can give a child, the knowledge that they were worth the sacrifice, that they were worth the pain, that they were worth choosing every single day, even when it cost everything. If you're reading this and you're carrying a secret that feels too heavy to hold, I understand. If you're wrestling with whether to tell the truth or protect someone from pain, I understand that too. There are no easy answers. Sometimes love means honesty. Sometimes love means mercy.
David chose mercy. And while part of me wishes he'd chosen differently, another part of me, the part that had 23 years of feeling completely loved and wanted, will always be grateful he made the choice he did. The truth matters, but love matters more. And sometimes the most loving thing we can do is carry a burden so someone else doesn't have to. My father carried that burden for 23 years, alone, in silence, never asking for recognition or gratitude or understanding. He just loved me. And in the end, that's all that matters.
If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever discovered a truth that changed everything you believed? Have you ever had to choose between honesty and mercy? Share your story, because sometimes knowing we're not alone in these impossible choices is the first step toward making peace with them.